Okay, when you think of Elvis Presley, what's the first image? You know, the rock and roller, the movie guy, Vegas
Some of
Elvis.
the icons.
Exactly. But what if there's another Elvis, an artist who um, really craved something deeper musically, whose best stuff maybe got buried?
Or never even saw the light of day.
Right. So today, we're doing a deep dive. We're looking at the, what, over 700 songs he recorded?
Yeah, a huge catalog.
And we want to uncover the albums Elvis never actually made, but maybe should have. We're digging through sessions, scraps, all the speculation.
Trying to figure out what the king really wanted you to hear.
It feels like such a, well, fascinating story, but kind of tragic too, doesn't it?
It really is, because under that huge, polished commercial image,
Mm.
there was this really passionate, sometimes uh, profoundly frustrated artist.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to try and piece together that other musical identity, those what-if moments in his career.
And that big what if often comes back to the tension, right? That famous tug of war between his own creativity and Colonel Parker's focus on, well, the money.
Oh, absolutely. It's legendary, that dynamic.
From your viewpoint, what was the biggest cost of that? Not just the music we missed, but for Elvis himself.
That's a really key question, because it wasn't just about, lost record sales or chart positions.
Right.
It was about this deeply spiritual person, this incredible natural musician who kept getting blocked from expressing his real self.
Parker just pushing those movie soundtracks.
Relentlessly.
Yeah.
Formulaic stuff churned out fast.
But yeah.
While Elvis, he was yearning for projects with more heart, more substance.
And RCA, the label, they were often part of that problem too.
They definitely played a role. Yeah. They frequently amplified things by rushing releases or even re-editing albums just for mass appeal quickly.
So it sounds like he was kind of creatively suffocating, even while being maybe the most famous person on earth.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Precisely. And you see it so clearly with something like the Elvis Country album.
Ah, yes. Talk
Right.
about that.
Well, Elvis had this really clear idea, this vision for a cohesive, soulful country record, getting back to his roots.
Okay.
But RCA. They decided to insert snippets of that song, I Was Born, about 10,000 years ago, between all the tracks.
Oh, I remember that. Why?
They thought it was some kind of clever linking device, a marketing gimmick. But for Elvis, it just completely shattered the artistic flow he wanted. It undermined the whole concept.
So that creative tug of war sets the stage. Let's move on to finding the actual clues then. What Elvis really wanted. We mentioned RCA messing with Elvis Country, but what was his original idea there, and what other album concepts were sort of floating around, maybe never fully realized?
Well, what's really striking is how often Elvis kept coming back to certain genres,
Mm-hmm.
particularly gospel and country music. It's like he was constantly trying to make space for that deeper side.
Almost like a musical refuge for him.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Take the gospel sessions in 1971. In just one incredibly productive session, he lays down several amazing tracks. Stuff like Reach Out to Jesus. Now, there's no memo saying this is for gospel album #3.
Right, no smoking gun.
No. But the sheer amount of material and the focus, the intensity in that session, it's led a lot of serious fans to believe, yeah, he probably intended a third full gospel album.
Interesting. And Elvis Country, we touched on that compromised vision. What about Moody Blue? That's often called his last studio album. Was there speculation around that one too?
Oh, definitely. Moody Blue itself was kind of a patchwork quilt.
Okay.
It was pieced together from live recordings and leftover studio tracks from different sessions over a couple of years. It wasn't like he sat down to create that specific album project.
Ah, I see.
And that has fueled so much speculation among fans. What would a real cohesive final album have sounded like if Elvis had lived longer? If he'd had the chance to really craft one final statement instead of it being essentially a compilation of available tracks.
One of those big what ifs, isn't it?
Absolutely. A tantalizing one.
So, beyond these almost albums, these concepts, there are specific songs, right? Actual gems that either didn't get released or were just buried on B-sides, totally underpromoted.
Oh, for sure. Loads of them. Stuff that casual fans probably still have never heard.
Can you give us some examples? What are we missing?
Okay, well, think about a track like I'll Never Know. It's this incredibly vulnerable ballad. He recorded it in a single take, apparently.
Wow.
It's so raw, so open emotionally. Maybe it was just seen as too much for a pop single back then.
Yeah.
Or a song like It's Still Here, just a powerful, really soulful lament. And then there's The Fool.
The Fool.
Yeah, it showed off this incredible vocal range and dexterity he had way beyond the rock hits. But where did it end up? Often just stuck on a B-side.
So these weren't just throwaways.
Not at all. They were real artistic statements.
Yeah.
But they often got lost in the shuffle, behind the big commercial machine.
So if they were so buried, how do we even know about them now? How have we gotten to hear them?
Well, thankfully, we have modern archival work to thank for that. There's FTD, that stands for Follow That Dream.
Right, the official collector's label.
Exactly. Run by Ernst Jurgensen. And they are absolutely dedicated to meticulously digging up and releasing Elvis's rare stuff, unreleased studio material, outtakes, live recordings, everything.
That sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is. And along with those bigger, really comprehensive box sets like Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, or 100 years from now,
Yeah.
these official releases have given us these incredible glimpses into the songs that, well, the general public just never got to hear back in the 70s. It's like finding hidden rooms in a pyramid everyone thought they knew.
That's a great analogy. So these glimpses, these lost albums and buried songs, they paint a picture. But what do they tell us about Elvis the man? What were the personal artistic drivers behind that superstar image?
Well, what's really revealing, I think, are his patterns, his recurring behaviors and things he said. You see him constantly throughout his whole career gravitating back towards gospel and country music.
We talked about that refuge idea.
Yeah. It wasn't just a musical taste. It felt like a sanctuary for him. He kept going back there, finding, I think, real solace and deep artistic expression.
Okay.
And another really fascinating angle is his admiration for Roy Hamilton, the great R&B baritone.
Oh, interesting. How did that show up?
You can hear Hamilton's influence so strongly in how Elvis delivered certain songs. Those really powerful, almost operatic performances of tracks like Hurt or You'll Never Walk Alone.
Ah, yeah, those are huge performances. So he wasn't just covering a song. He was like channeling an influence, a hero.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. It's a much deeper connection.
Right.
And musicians who are actually in the studio with him, they remember this stuff. Guys who played on the 1973 Stax sessions, for example. They often recalled Elvis saying things like he wanted to get back to real music.
Real music, meaning music with more depth.
Yeah, music with depth and soul. Now look, there's no document saying Plan makes soul album.
No hard proof.
Right. But his choices in performance, the way he interpreted certain songs, especially in those later sessions, it's strongly hinted he was leaning in that direction. You felt he wasn't just singing the notes, he was feeling them deeply.
And this whole journey of discovery didn't stop when Elvis died, did it? For the fans, it sounds like it almost kicked into high gear.
Oh, absolutely. It arguably just began in earnest then. Fans actively started working to reconstruct and explore all that, what could have been.
That's incredible dedication.
It really is. It's a testament to his legacy.
Yeah.
You see these amazing fan projects, like people meticulously putting together playlists they call the countryside of Elvis or spiritual Elvis.
How do they do that?
They pore over session tapes, B-sides, outtakes, trying to sequence things the way Elvis might have intended, creating these thematic albums he perhaps envisioned. And you've got online Elvis forums, like FEC, that's the For Elvis Collectors Club, a really active one. They are constantly alive with fans debating alternate album sequences, sharing theories, just trying to understand his unfulfilled musical dreams.
And I guess the beauty now, in our digital age, is that so much of this is actually accessible.
Exactly. Alternate takes, these sort of fan-curated lost albums, even the old bootleg collections, which, while unofficial, often gave the first hints.
Right, the early glimpses.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff is now findable on places like YouTube. It lets anyone really dive much deeper than ever before. You can explore these overlooked corners of his work.
It's like this ongoing collaborative effort between the official archives and the dedicated fans.
It really is. And it allows the artist Elvis to shine through, beyond just the commercial packaging.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway here isn't just, oh, Elvis had some unreleased songs. It feels more profound. It's almost a stark example of how even the biggest stars can feel trapped by their success, maybe forced to compromise their truest artistic voice for the sake of commerce.
Yeah, that's well put. Elvis Presley definitely left behind so many hints about the artist he really wanted to be.
Hints buried where?
Buried in those B-sides we talked about, in forgotten takes, and especially, I think, in those incredibly powerful gospel harmonies that he clearly cherished his whole life.
So we really encourage you, the listener, to go back and revisit some of this material.
Definitely. Try listening to those 1971 Nashville sessions again, or maybe put on the He Touched Me album with fresh ears.
And when you do,
You'll hear the heart of Elvis. Not just the brand Elvis. You'll hear that artist who was really yearning to express something deeper beyond what the market always demanded.
a fascinating journey through the music he might have made. And on our next deep dive, well, we'll uncover the story of the day. Elvis almost got political.
Oh yeah, and crucially, why Colonel Parker stepped in and shut that down.